The 2013 cohort has been selected, and after a brief moment of celebration, it's time for the successful finalists to get down to work.
Tomorrow morning, you're going to be making a pitch. You're basically going to come up with a business, evaluate the business, and present the business as if you were presenting to investors. You're going to go through all the steps of coming up with an idea, developing the idea, figuring out the market, figuring out the competitors, and presenting. If you love it, that can be your idea that you start off with. If you do it, and by the end of it say, this was a terrible idea, it's okay. You can pick another one the next morning.
You're going to pitch tomorrow. Your lives are like being determined in the next 24 hours. You're all going to invest a good amount of time in a venture, and there is some chance that there's somebody else somewhere in the world doing the same thing. And it's also possibly the case that there will only be one person standing.
Your purpose here is to assess whether the idea is good, not to prove that the idea is good. And I hope and expect many of you to find out your idea is not good.
By being more earnest, hustling more, and working harder, you can beat businesses that are orders of magnitude larger than yourself.
Each team now meets to begin brainstorming ideas, and time is of the essence. Group presentations begin in just 24 short hours.
So the way this idea would work is it would turn each news story into essentially a user-updated Wikipedia page.
There are a lot of patients who don't speak English and end up going to doctors who do. So there's often a communication.
Language barrier.
Exactly. But what if they could type it, they could fill out this template and have it converted from their foreign language to English? And at least the doctor has a better idea of what they're communicating.
So I read an article in the New York Times that was about how it was about security for mobile devices, and this notion that like your body movements are more unique to you than like your fingerprints even are, and that you could somehow use that to enhance like mobile security.
I kind of had this idea of kind of like a super icon where you really interact with an icon in a way that's never really been done before.
Pitches, presentations, and elevator pitches are not like novels. You don't leave the cliffhanger to the end. You want to put the cliffhanger at the beginning. You want to catch people's attention right away. The reality is, whoever you're giving a presentation to is probably smarter than you are. So you don't need to go into a huge lot of like these long details as to what it is you're talking about.
Basically what we did is we kind of sat down and saw where all of our strengths were, like what industries do we have experience in. Yep. Huge problem is gender inequality on executive or corporate boards and executive teams, right? And they're avidly trying to solve that problem.
If you only have men on your corporate board or on your executive team, then you're eliminating half the talent pool, and therefore probably half the, you're working literally with one arm behind your back because you're limiting yourself to only half the population. Group brainstorming typically is actually very ineffective, and so it's usually good to sort of go, let's separate, spend 15 minutes just by ourselves, coming up with a bunch of ideas, and then come back together as a group to discuss them. And so it's usually a pretty effective methodology.
We're saying the biggest problem with language learning in universities, having gone through it, is that you don't practice enough, and it's very difficult for people to practice because there's anxiety and there's worry and stuff. And therefore, having taken 2 years of French now, I still can't learn it because all I did was grammar.
Yeah. And it's hard for teachers to evaluate your learning process through participation.
So whenever you're going through your ideas, try to focus on how quickly can I eliminate this idea, and if it passes with flying colors, then maybe you're onto something.
I can buy a stock and it can fail as it can do good, but I'm not that comfortable.
But it goes against absolutely the reason you should be buying a stock. You should be buying a stock because you've researched it, you understand the company, not because some friend tweeted about it. So go back and work on it and see if you guys can come up with a way of having it more positive social good. Because more than likely, if you can figure out some social good out of it, it'll actually become a much better idea.
With a long night ahead and little time for sleep, each member of the 2013 cohort is well aware how important tomorrow's pitch will be. The groups have been put to their first big test, but they know there will be many more to come.
We're all awake and we're not stopping until we get the work done, so that's the most important.